Bethesda is trash, a shadow of what it once was. And currently, it looks like there is absolutely not a single shred of talent left in this company. And the worst part is, it seems like Bethesda itself is very convinced that they are good, that they have talent, that there is no problem. And one of the most evident things about this is obviously what happened to Starfield and Shattered Space, aka the lead writer, Emil Paglaruni, or whatever his dumb name is. You know, the guy unanimously hated by everyone currently because he couldn't write a good story if his life depended on it. Okay? The best that this guy could honestly do was introduce a group of people who have it by law that they can kill each other for no reason whatsoever and get their stuff for free, and they have tattoos, and then explain nothing of that bullshittery and stupidity. Yeah, Bethesda is doing horrible. No one, no one expects them to succeed at anything. The Oblivion remaster, people are not even putting their money on that because, again, if Bethesda is involved like it was in Redfall, aka they actually had full creative decision making over a game that their studio wasn't even responsible for technically. I, I don't know what we're supposed to expect. Disaster, probably, right?
Now, I was going to make a video about Bethesda's reputation regardless, but in light of my previous video, and having seen some comments about quote-unquote Bethesda hate, as well as some comments about my conspiracy theory, which I admitted was a conspiracy theory, I caveated everything I said, I thought it would be a good idea to sort of combine a video about Bethesda's reputation with some of the previous things I said. Now, at the outset, many people said that, of course, Bethesda has nothing against the production of Skyblivion or modders in general. And in fact,
What? Maybe they like modders, but they like modders when they're, just stealing a texture package from the Unity engine and implementing it in the store because that's free money for them, okay? They do like modders in that sense, but Bethesda hates the concept of Sky Oblivion. Bethesda hates all of these big mods. Again, they have a history of this. When Fallout London was going out, guess what? Oh, it's about to release. Well, Bethesda's like, let's release a completely useless update that makes the graphics better and completely ruin the game just to stop the mod from dropping because if it drops and it's good, then everyone will see how poorly Bethesda actually does things. And even before that, something else happened. Bethesda did the same thing. Bethesda has a reputation of dropping things in surprisingly I'm moving a lot because my ass is slightly sweaty because it is pretty hot and reason. Okay, listen, but I do have a firm ass. Okay, it is it. No, that it's a peach, boys. Okay, listen, it is what it is. Not all men are made equal, but my ass stands above it. Where was I? Anyway, yeah, Bethesda has a reputation for doing these things, and a lot of these things. In fact, they have already done it 2 times. So the idea that they could actually drop the Oblivion remake before Sky Oblivion just makes sense because the remake of the Sky Oblivion mod, if finished, if done, even 50% correctly, is probably going to be better than the Oblivion remake or remaster, whatever the hell that they want to call it. So yeah, Bethesda 100% hates. Todd Howard even literally despises Fallout New Vegas for being the best Fallout.
if Bethesda really wanted them to stop making Skyblivion and had an issue with it, they would have ordered a cease and desist. Now, on the face of it, this seems like a logical claim. They could just
No, no, that's not a logical claim. That doesn't even seem like a reasonable claim. If they did that, oh boy, would people be mad.
tell them to stop making the mod, and that would be the end of it. And that's meant to serve as hard evidence that Bethesda has absolutely no problem with the making of a massive mod, a recreation of Skyblivion, or for that matter, a game/mod such as Fallout London, which, although I haven't played it, I have heard puts Bethesda to shame in many respects, and is a significantly better Fallout game than anything that Bethesda has made in recent years. So yeah, problem solved, right? The conspiracy theory is just a conspiracy theory. Bethesda just doesn't care, or indeed they're supportive of Skyblivion. Well, I have some news for you.
Hey,
Things are not always black and white. What do you think would happen if Bethesda actually ordered a cease and desist to the people making Skyblivion?
exactly.
Do you think there would be something akin to a PR disaster? Do you not think that public relations and reputation means anything to Bethesda? Now, it is true that Bethesda has dragged its reputation through the mud in recent years, there's no question about that, but ordering a cease and desist to dozens, if not hundreds of mod makers of a beloved mod, a mod that many people have been looking forward to, would be a PR disaster. It simply would not be acceptable in the eyes of the public, and would further serve to ruin Bethesda's reputation, which already, as I said, is pretty much in the toilet. And now we would like to examine the question as to why the reputation of Bethesda is in the toilet. Where does the quote-unquote hate come from, since I am a promoter of quote-unquote Bethesda hate? Well, needless to say,
buddy, please. Buddy, please.
Bethesda is solely responsible for the creation of this hate. Bethesda used to be a much beloved developer.
Yeah, I think this is a very important thing to say. No one is responsible for the Bethesda hate, okay? Except Bethesda themselves. There is no single person on YouTube who just one day woke up and said, "You know what? I'm gonna call Bethesda shit for no reason." And then bam, suddenly the polarity shift happened. The billions of birds died and volcanoes erupted and Bethesda was hated. Didn't happen. People hate Bethesda because, surprise, surprise, Bethesda shit. Surprise, surprise, Bethesda can't do anything properly. Surprise, surprise, no one trusts Bethesda. Surprise, surprise, time after time after time of experience, it just gets worse and worse. And that's pretty much it. That's why people hate Bethesda. That's why people love shitting on Bethesda. Okay? That's just reality. It doesn't matter what you feel. This is how it is.
And studio.
And by the way, big corporations constantly try to use this as probably one of the most flimsiest and shittiest shields in history. That, oh, there's some kind of dark cabal person who made everyone angry at us for no reason. Yeah. This guy with 1K subscribers made a video saying Fallout 3 actually good? Or is that over? Or is that just nostalgia talking? And then everyone was, oh, I hate Bethesda now. No. No one has. I love when these companies just think that YouTubers hate them for no reason, and people people like you just watch this video and they're instantaneously like, holy shit, this guy just said something. Now I must believe. They think I have some kind of magical power over you watching. Can you please like donate me money? By the way, thank you. Anyway,
Everyone knows this. And now, not so much. Something happened in the interim between back then and the current moment in time that garnered them this newfound reputation and earned them the quote-unquote hate.
this is what it feels like to play Tainted Grail. By the way, the true Skyrim, the true Oblivion.
Now, at the end of the day, let's be clear. This is just about video games. There are more important things in life than video games. But we are talking about video games. This is a video game channel. And I wouldn't describe it as hate. I would describe it as disappointment. Bitter, bitter disappointment. Not only on my part, but on the part of many, many individuals out there who have tried and made Herculean efforts to maintain hope, faith, and confidence in Bethesda, and at each juncture, when Bethesda has the opportunity to reinforce that faith, that confidence, to offer the population that supports Bethesda games hope, they screw it up and they reinforce the disappointment. They reinforce the lack of faith, the lack of confidence.
Yep, that's what happens. And by the way, worst of all is the fact that again, the reason that we hate Emilian Peglaruno so much is not just because he's a shitty writer and he's talentless and he's an absolute loser. It's the fucking fact that a person that that can be easily described by that by many people at this point, that people are not even gonna try and argue against in the comment sections, even though we love arguing here on this channel. That guy went on 2 separate Twitter tirades about how great of a writer he is and how dumb and stupid and unqualified and uneducated all of us mere peasantry class are to not think that his writing is God's goddamn gift upon man. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm not gonna like a person who says who actually has who legitimately, arguably, maybe has that opinion. Jeez.
and thereby stoke the fires of quote unquote hate. Now, what can we adduce as evidence for this hate? Well, Fallout 4, for example, was not an especially good game. It had its moments.
Second best Fallout series of the modern day. Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was way better than the original Fallout 3. It's the truth. Fight me.
Far Harbor was an excellent DLC, probably the best piece of work that Bethesda has put out since that time. There's
True,
nothing that
actually,
Bethesda has
though.
put out since then that exceeds the quality and the expansiveness of Far Harbor, that particular DLC for Fallout 4. And since then, we have not received a lot of evidence to bolster our morale when it comes to Bethesda. There was the absolute disaster of Fallout 76. Anyone who denies that obviously was not around or paying attention.
Okay, considering we're talking about these things, let me spurg out a little bit about Tainted Grail more because I like that game so much, okay? You know what one thing in Fallout that I don't like, and it has been a problem since I mean even the original games, even though I never finished them as a kid and I literally remember almost nothing about them. It is the fact, it is the simple fact that there's no subverting of expectations in it. Okay? New Vegas does some subverting of expectations when you talk to characters, but it's not really subverting expectation. It's just like they say their plan is to control, you know, the dam, obviously, and then they just explain why and why they are qualified to do so, or why it should be done like that. That's not really subversion of expectation, even though it kind of feels, you know, you get exactly what you think you're gonna get. If you think something's gonna go wild in a situation like this, it's gonna happen like that. If you think if you think picking flowers is gonna turn into a dangerous situation, it's gonna. There is never a subversion of expectation. In Tainted Grail, there are so many situations where you're just a bitch sometimes that fucking makes a coat for a guy because he says he feels a little bit cold. And then there are situations where it's like your expectations are completely subverted. This is not what you expected in this. And I think that is a great approach. I love games that subvert expectations in general.
But it was a junky, buggy mess upon release. It was an online multiplayer game, which was not what most of the fans wanted, and it took them years to patch it up and correct it. And even then, God Howard only slightly admitted there were problems, admitted that they could have done better, and just sort of brushed it aside. And of course, infamously, in response to Starfield,
How many times can you make the same mistake?
we know all about the ridiculous and silly responses that happened there. You can see it on the screen. Telling people,
Oh, I don't even. Oh, wait, Starfield. He said Starfield, yes. So these are going to be Chat GPT. Again, Starfield is just peak Bethesda stupidity. I don't have to read this to know what this is because chances are I know that them going to be right just by because we know what this is, right? This is a Chat GPT generated response, or this is the developers saying because the developers post Chat generated GPT response. Right? They had like a copy paste, or this is alternative. I'm gonna open my eyes because this is stupid. Or this is the developers saying, "Hey, Have you tried play the game correctly, dumbass? That's pretty much it. Those were the two things that Bethesda did when responding to criticism. One was, well, you're not playing the game right, dumbass. And the second one was a chat GPT generated response that meant nothing.
All that. The game, in fact, is not
Oh, and wait, you can fly, you can shoot, you can mine, you can loot, Starfields, and blah blah blah. Oh, and maybe if you're lucky, you're getting. But were the real astronauts when they first went to space bored? No. And Todd Howard's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. The people at the Apollo 11 mission, they weren't bored in space. So how are you bored right now playing a computer game, asshole? It's insane.
not generic, that they need to play it in a different way, that there are all these different opportunities to explore Starfield and play the game differently, and if they just played it the right way, then they would enjoy the game.
Yeah.
We're telling people that the astronauts that landed on the moon in the 60s weren't bored despite
Yeah,
the emptiness of the
exactly.
moon. As if astronauts exploring the moon in real time, IRL, is somehow akin to a video game, or God Howard telling everyone that Starfield is in fact
Yeah, again, I have the same thoughts on it. He has the same thoughts on it. You have the same thoughts on these stupid takes. Except these people working at Bethesda. Somehow these special takes are just completely outside of normal reason.
optimized for PC despite massive problems that people had despite having optimized PCs, and subsequently him telling everyone that they need to upgrade their PCs because Starfield is optimized and it's a great game. Or what about the head writer?
Oh yeah, that was also a thing that they did. I completely forgot about this one. People are saying, uh, Starfield lags for me, and their response is, "Well, buy a new computer, poor poor loser."
Or studio design director Emil Pagliarulo,
My
who
favorite.
infamously made comments about the stupidity of gamers and video game players and how they're not interested in the story.
Damn
All
right.
evidence to the contrary notwithstanding, since we have seen a number of games that are RPGs that have been very successful, in part or in whole, because
Yeah, I mean, actually, I haven't heard that take before. That players don't want story. Players do want story, but we're talking about Bethesda games. If Fallout 3 didn't even have its story, it would be complete trash, okay? Sure, one of the big, great, big and things that people like about Bethesda games are the freedom to explore and do whatever you want. But if these games didn't have a good story, no one would care. At the end of the day, when we talk about why Fallout 4 was good, we don't say, "Oh, because Bar Harbor had a island you could explore." No, it's because it had a good story. When we talk about why Fallout New Vegas was great, we don't say, "Oh, because it had shooting mechanics." No, we talk about the complexity of its story that it was great. Okay? All of this is literally story centered, in fact. Story takes main stage in 100% all of these games. And this guy is just trying to tell you, well, you actually don't like story, loser. Again, it's so easy to hate Bethesda.
of the story. These people, to be perfectly blunt, have their heads stuck up their buttocks. They display arrogance, disregard for the customer, and they display what's perhaps worst of all, a know-it-allism, which tends to override any capacity.
Oh, it's not know-it-allism. Again, it's the fact that they literally think that they are better than us, that they know better than us ourselves what we actually want. Which sometimes, honestly, is true because sometimes gamers don't want what they say they want, but most of the time it's not.
To receive constructive criticism and input. So when players voice concerns about the generic emptiness of Starfield, which is a serious issue in the game, it's just a very boring game to explore. This is almost the universal consensus. They simply dismiss it because the players are stupid and the players don't know what they're talking about. They know better. This is a management problem at the end of the day. People want to know why there's Bethesda hate, There's Bethesda hate because Bethesda, specifically individuals such as God Howard and Emil Pagliarulo, have mismanaged the studio in their roles. They have not managed the studio appropriately, producing poor results, disappointing the fans, disappointing paying customers, and they just do not and cannot concede any wrongdoing. It's simply impossible. Whereas you have, on the other hand, other studios out there, plenty of them in fact, but a few come to mind, that are hyper receptive to player feedback. They will say, oh, lots of players want this feature in the game. Why don't we add that to the game for free? Oh, that's a really cool idea. The players want, I don't know, more classes or archetypes to play. Let's think of some homebrew ones. That's really cool. Oh, the players didn't like that aspect of the game. Let's try to improve on it in the game, or we can simply not implement it into the next game we make. You could make the argument that why should AAA studios respond to player feedback? Because, frankly speaking, their financial life is on the line. Look, no one I know, and none of the comments I've seen, and there have been hundreds online, admittedly anecdotal, but it amounts to something. None of these comments support the idea that people are giddy or hopeful about the prospect of Elder Scrolls 6. Most people think it is going to be average or a trash heap, and this pessimism.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, honestly, I would say I think most people believe that Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna not be a trash heap, but it's gonna be it's gonna, well, I would say trash, but you get it. It's way above just bad. When I say trash, I mean it's gonna be a complete disaster.
Which is sometimes misconstrued as quote-unquote hate, lies squarely on the shoulders of the management and the people at Bethesda Game Studios, because they have produced this disappointment in the gaming population. When Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, when I'm even more ancient than I already am, which if I had to guess will probably be around something like 2029, when it comes out, nigh 20 years after the release of Skyrim, do you think there are going to be massive upgrades? How do you think it's going to look and compete with other games, Witcher 4, the next Cyberpunk game, games that are going to look better, feel better, play better, have much better writing, better systems, and so on and so forth? It is going to look like antiquated trash, garbage, that belongs to a bygone era. People in all likelihood will say, 20 years ago, this would have been a good game. In 2029...
Yeah. No, at that point, it's gonna be 30 years ago. This would have been a good game.
it looks painfully average to terrible. And Bethesda...
So Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna be made in the same engine as Starfield, which means, again, it's gonna look bad. And the lead writer for that is Emil. Yeah. So, I mean, that's two strikes. The third one is it's Bethesda. it's it's cooked. It's completely over. Again, like the chances that the Elder Scrolls 6 could be a success or even mediocre at this point doesn't seem legit, because you need to understand. Some of you may have the faint hope that, oh no, if Bethesda makes not random created, planet system or all of the things that made Starfield bad, aka they don't leave everything to random generation, but they make their own locations and then like that, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. But the thing is, see, when Starfield Shattered Space came out, they did that. Yeah, they did. They made a whole planet with like multiple locations where it was handcrafted, and it was shit. It was bad, really bad. In fact, no one liked it. Like some people were literally saying, "Give me back the random generated locations. They actually have more soul than the handcrafted ones at this point."
needs to do better. And, indeed, on the note of doing better, what can Bethesda really do at that stage when their so-called magnum opus, Elder Scrolls 6, turns out to be a painfully average disappointment compared to the plethora of games that have been released in the previous years? What will they do? I guarantee you they will make excuses, they will lie, and tell you that you.
Oh, they don't need to lie. They're delusional, so they're just gonna tell you what they feel like happened, why it happened, and it's gonna be dumb. Okay, listen. Todd Howard's words was Starfield Shattered Space was not a success. Are you sitting down? I hope you're sitting down because this is gonna be a tough one. Todd Howard's claim why Shattered Space wasn't a success was because they did not introduce the buggy in the expansion, but before that. That's right. That's right. Somehow, everything that Shattered Space did wrong was the fault of introducing the unusable, poorly writable pod in a previous free patch, not the expansion. That's somehow ruined Shattered Space. He, yeah. I mean, what else am I supposed to say? We know how stupid that is. Anyway, that was Spell and Shield 10 out of 10. Bye.